he set up a memo to Stoll, the CEO, writing that Sandoz should now focus on these psychedelic substances. We should examine all the possibilities. We should create new compounds. We should become the psychedelic pharmaceutical powerhouse in the world. And that idea is a great idea.
It is a great idea.
And Stoll just said no. Because he had been visited by Sidney Gottlieb, who basically said, no, don't do it.
Well, it's guys like that guy in the suit and tie with the salt and pepper hair. There's no-nonsense Republican, right-wing, controlling.
But I think it's also, these guys are a little bit of the past.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm quite surprised. For example, in America, I get approached by different camps about Tripped in a very positive way. Because I think somehow that anti-drug rhetoric is losing ground.
Yes.
That's the feeling I have.
Well,
so
it's losing ground.
That makes me a little bit optimistic.
It's losing ground because of the internet. So the narrative up until the internet came around was that these things destroy lives. And then all of a sudden people are saying, actually not really. And then you have the positive effect that it has on people that are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder coming back from the war, which is really, what MAPS is concentrating on.
Yeah, right. The mainstream media really is a problem in this regard.
They're a problem with everything. Well, they're essentially a propaganda network that is passing itself off as the news.
It kind of comes from Randolph Hearst in a way. I mean,
it certainly does.
Yeah, I mean he kind of set the tone.
Absolutely. But I mean, I'm sure there were people doing that before. If you have control of the newspaper, and especially back then with Hearst Publications, there's very few newspapers in the country, and especially ones that were respected. If you have control over that narrative, you put something in the newspaper and people read it, they read that as that, oh my God, that is a fact. This is what's happening. People today are far more skeptical, particularly after the pandemic. I think the pandemic kind of shook things up to a point where it's much more difficult to pass off propaganda today than it was even just 4 years ago.
I mean, that's why I was quite excited to come on this podcast, on this experience, because I think you have actually created a space where free thought is possible and free communication. So it's like a stage that you've created. I think it's actually quite an important artwork that you have established here.